In the dead of winter, on December 25, 1642, a tiny baby was born during a violent storm in Woolsthorpe, England. He was so small and fragile that neighbors said he would barely survive. Some accounts claim he could have fit into a quart mug. This baby was Isaac Newton. Newton's father had died 3 months before his birth. His mother remarried when he was just 3, leaving young Isaac in the care of his grandmother. The abandonment left deep scars and a simmering anger that would shape his personality for life. From a very early age, he was solitary, introspective, and fiercely determined. Even as a child, Newton showed an unusual fascination with the world. He built sundials, water clocks, and mechanical models of mills and wind-driven machines. While other children played, he dissected their toys, studied how they worked, and asked questions no one else thought to ask. This combination of fragility and relentless curiosity created the foundation for his later genius. Newton's early life teaches us that beginnings do not define outcomes. Even from the most unlikely circumstances, brilliance can emerge. Sometimes hardship fuels determination, and solitude sharpens the mind. In the storm that raged the night he was born, one could almost imagine the universe itself signaling the arrival of someone destined to uncover its hidden laws. From tiny, fragile beginnings, Newton's mind would grow to grasp forces that shape not just apples and planets, but the very fabric of reality.
Even as a boy, Isaac Newton was not content to simply observe the world. He wanted to dominate it. At school, he was small and frail, but he had a fiery temper and a sharp mind. He was bullied, teased, and often humiliated by stronger children. Newton did not take this lying down. He once promised to beat the school's top student in a physical fight, and then outsmarted him academically, earning a silent, personal victory that no one else noticed. From a young age, Newton learned that intelligence could be a weapon as powerful as strength, and that persistence could triumph where brute force failed. But Newton's drive was not limited to childhood rivalries. Even as he grew older, he kept mental lists of enemies, scientists he believed had wronged or challenged him. Robert Hooke, the brilliant but combative natural philosopher, would later become one of his most famous rivalries. Newton's grudges could last decades, shaping the way he worked, published, and defended his ideas. This obsession with competition and perfection was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it pushed him to explore questions no one else dared to tackle. On the other, it fueled isolation, secrecy, and an intense personal rigidity. The lesson from Newton's early conflicts is clear. Adversity and rivalry can ignite greatness, but unchecked pride and anger can consume a life. True wisdom is learning how to channel ambition and curiosity without letting them turn into obsession. Even in these formative years, the foundations of Newton's future genius were visible: a mind that refused to accept limits, a relentless curiosity, and a drive to understand the world on his own terms. In 1665, the Great Plague swept through England, forcing Cambridge University to close its doors. Students scattered and lectures ceased. Most young minds were idle, waiting for the danger to pass. But Isaac Newton returned home to Woolsthorpe Manor, and in isolation, something extraordinary happened. For 2 years, Newton worked alone, away from professors, peers, and distractions. In this quiet, he made discoveries that would change the world. It was during this time that he developed the foundations of calculus, explored optics by dissecting light through prisms, and formulated the law of universal gravitation, the same force that governs both falling apples and orbiting planets. The solitude of Woolsthorpe revealed a hidden truth. Genius often thrives not in the spotlight, but in the quiet moments when the mind is free to wander and experiment. Newton's notes from this period show a man obsessed, scribbling calculations at all hours, testing theories with rudimentary instruments, and pursuing answers that no one else in the world could see. Even in isolation, Newton's work was rigorous. He measured, calculated, and questioned everything, combining imagination with methodical reasoning. His time alone became the most productive period of his life, proving that constraints like physical isolation can become catalysts for extraordinary creativity. The lesson is timeless. Sometimes stepping away from the noise of the world allows the mind to see what others cannot. Focus, persistence, and a willingness to explore in solitude can unlock insights that change the course of human knowledge.
Most people imagine Isaac Newton sitting under an apple tree, struck on the head by a falling fruit, and suddenly discovering gravity. The truth is far more fascinating. Newton did see an apple fall while he was at Woolsthorpe Manor, but it never hit him. Instead, he paused, observed, and asked a simple but profound question. Why does the apple always fall straight down? Could the same force reach out to the moon? This quiet moment of curiosity led Newton to formulate the law of universal gravitation, the principle that the same force governing apples also guides the motion of planets and moons. It was a leap from the everyday to the cosmic, a realization that invisible forces connect everything in the universe. Hidden fact: Newton continued to test and refine his ideas for years. He calculated planetary orbits with painstaking precision and even compared them with the predictions of previous astronomers like Kepler and Galileo. What started as a simple observation became a revolutionary understanding of nature itself. The wisdom from this story is clear. Profound insights often come not from sudden inspiration, but from careful observation and persistent questioning. The world is full of ordinary events, a falling apple, a spinning wheel, the pattern of tides, that hold extraordinary secrets if we take the time to notice them. Newton's apple reminds us that curiosity, combined with patience and disciplined thought, can transform the way we understand reality. Sometimes the universe reveals its deepest truths to those who simply stop, watch, and ask why.
Isaac Newton was not content to rely on theory alone. He believed that true understanding required direct experimentation, even if it meant endangering himself. One of his most extreme experiments involved a bodkin, a sharp needle, which he pressed behind his own eye to study how vision worked. On another occasion, he stared at the sun through a prism, testing the nature of light, until his eyes were nearly damaged. Hidden fact: Newton's obsession with optics went far beyond simple curiosity. He discovered that white light is composed of a spectrum of colors, laying the foundation for modern physics and our understanding of color. But his methods were extreme, reflecting both his courage and his single-minded obsession with uncovering truth. Newton also performed countless mechanical experiments, from building reflecting telescopes to studying the refraction of light through glass and water. Every observation was measured meticulously, recorded in detailed notebooks, and tested again and again. The wisdom here is powerful. True knowledge often requires boldness and persistence. Newton's willingness to test ideas physically, even at personal risk, reminds us that discovery is rarely passive. Science demands courage, patience, and a refusal to accept assumptions without proof. Through these experiments, Newton not only expanded human understanding of light and vision, but also modeled a mindset. Curiosity pursued fearlessly, rigorously, and relentlessly
can illuminate truths invisible to everyone else.
While Isaac Newton is celebrated for calculus, motion, and gravity, few people know that he spent more of his life studying alchemy than science. In secret notebooks, he meticulously recorded experiments trying to create the philosopher's stone, a legendary substance believed to turn base metals into gold. He also explored the nature of matter, hidden forces, and chemical transformations, work that at the time was considered mystical or even dangerous. Hidden fact: Newton encoded some of his alchemical writings in cryptic symbols, as if hiding secrets from the world. These manuscripts weren't fully analyzed until centuries later, revealing a side of Newton almost unrecognizable to the public. A man obsessed with the unseen, the magical, and the divine structure of the universe. Newton's fascination didn't stop with chemistry. He also studied biblical prophecy, attempting to decode patterns in scripture. He calculated that the world might end around 2060, showing that even the greatest rational mind can seek meaning in mystery. The wisdom here is profound. Curiosity should have no boundaries, but the pursuit of knowledge must be guided by discipline and insight. Newton reminds us that brilliance often lies at the intersection of logic and imagination, science and philosophy. Even what seems strange, mystical, or hidden can offer lessons about the structure of reality, if approached with care and rigor. Through his secret alchemy and prophetic studies, Newton exemplified a truth still relevant today. The quest for understanding is never limited to one field. The mind that explores widely, yet rigorously, uncovers truths others never see.
Isaac Newton was not only a genius, but also a fiercely competitive and often vindictive man. One of his most infamous rivalries was with Robert Hooke, a fellow scientist and Royal Society member. Hooke accused Newton of borrowing ideas in optics, sparking a decades-long feud. Some historians believe that after Hooke's death, Newton may have erased Hooke's portrait from the Royal Society, leaving no known image of him today. Another legendary rivalry was with Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz over who first invented calculus. Newton leveraged his power and influence to discredit Leibniz across Europe, ensuring that much of the world credited Newton while tarnishing Leibniz's reputation. Hidden fact: Newton's vendettas were not mere ego trips. They shaped the development and publication of his work. He sometimes delayed or withheld findings to maintain intellectual dominance, showing that even the brightest minds can be driven by pride and rivalry. The wisdom here is stark. Brilliance without humility can create conflict. While competition can push discoveries forward, unchecked ego and vengeance can distort truth and harm collaboration. Newton's rivalries remind us that genius is not just about intelligence, but about how it interacts with character and ethics. Despite his conflicts, the world benefited from Newton's relentless pursuit. His feuds, though dark, indirectly accelerated scrutiny, debate, and refinement of scientific ideas, showing that even human flaws can inadvertently contribute to progress.
Later in life, Isaac Newton took on a role that seems far from the study of stars in motion. He became Master of the Royal Mint in 1696. Far from a ceremonial post, this position put him in charge of England's coinage, and Newton approached it with the same rigor and obsession that marked his scientific work. Hidden fact: Newton personally investigated counterfeiters, often disguising himself to gather evidence in secret. He prosecuted criminals relentlessly, and many were sent to the gallows. One notorious target, William Challoner, became a symbol of the Mint's reform and Newton's uncompromising approach to justice. At the Mint, Newton applied systematic observation, deduction, and measurement,
the same principles he used in physics to solve real-world problems. He standardized coins, eradicated counterfeiting, and made England's currency one of the most stable in Europe. The wisdom here is striking. Knowledge alone is not enough. Its application defines its value. Newton showed that the mind capable of unraveling the universe could also shape society, enforce justice, and protect common good. His work at the Mint is a reminder that intelligence combined with action can have a tangible impact on the world. Through meticulous work and relentless pursuit of fairness, Newton proved that even a life devoted to abstract thought can find meaning and power in practical, ethical action.
Isaac Newton never married, never had children, and maintained few close personal relationships. Unlike many of his contemporaries, he devoted nearly every moment of his life to study, experimentation, and intellectual conquest. Hidden fact: Newton's obsession with work and secrecy may have come, in part, from the emotional scars of his childhood, the early loss of his father, and the abandonment by his mother. Some historians suggest that his inability to form intimate relationships was both a personal limitation and a byproduct of his singular focus on understanding the universe. Despite this isolation, Newton's life demonstrates a profound lesson. Focus and discipline can lead to extraordinary achievements, but they come at a cost. His sacrifices allowed him to revolutionize science, yet they also left him alone, with few human comforts or companions in his final years. Wisdom from Newton's personal choices is clear. Greatness often demands dedication and self-discipline, but true fulfillment requires balance. Achieving brilliance in one domain does not replace the need for connection, empathy, and the human relationships that give life meaning. Newton's refusal of personal attachments reminds us that while the pursuit of knowledge can elevate humanity, it is ultimately our connections and how we use that knowledge that define the legacy we leave behind.
Isaac Newton's work did not end with his death in 1727. It continues to shape our understanding of the universe today. His laws of motion and universal gravitation guide spacecraft, satellites, and even modern engineering. Calculus, which he developed in secret, became the foundation for almost all modern science. Hidden fact: Newton's notebooks reveal a man divided between rigorous logic and mystical obsession. While he formalized the laws of the physical world, he also spent decades studying alchemy, biblical prophecy, and hidden forces, often recording his experiments in cryptic codes. Few people knew this side of Newton during his lifetime. His duality, rational genius alongside secret mysticism, teaches a profound lesson. The pursuit of knowledge is not only about mastering facts, but also about exploring the unknown, embracing curiosity, and questioning limits. Even the most brilliant mind can balance concrete discovery with the wonder of mystery. Newton's legacy is a combination of light and darkness. The light lies in the clarity, order, and precision he brought to the universe. The darkness lies in his secrecy, obsession, and the personal sacrifices he made along the way. The ultimate wisdom from Newton's life and work is simple. Knowledge changes the world, curiosity drives it, and courage sustains it. By daring to explore both the visible and hidden forces of the universe, Newton became a figure whose influence stretches far beyond the laboratory, the mint, or any single lifetime, teaching us that the mind, disciplined yet fearless, can reshape reality itself.
Isaac Newton was a man of extraordinary genius, but also extraordinary eccentricity. Beyond the famous discoveries, he lived a life filled with habits and obsessions that most people never hear about. He worked in extreme isolation, often for days or weeks at a time, forgetting to eat, sleep, or leave his study. His notebooks reveal obsessive experiments, measuring the speed of sound, timing pendulums, and calculating the motions of planets with painstaking precision. He even observed shadows of moving objects, sometimes animals, to understand the behavior of light. Hidden fact: Newton had strange mystical beliefs. He tried to decode biblical prophecies mathematically and saw hidden significance in numbers, believing that understanding them could reveal God's plan. He also studied alchemy obsessively, often encoding his experiments in cryptic symbols. Even in his role at the Mint, Newton's eccentricity showed. He became extremely rich, yet meticulously counted coins as if they were celestial objects, personally hunting counterfeiters and keeping every detail of his work in obsessive records. Socially, Newton was isolated by choice. He sometimes refused to meet other scientists in person, communicating only by letters. His grudges lasted decades, and he could be ruthlessly vindictive when someone challenged his ideas. The wisdom here is subtle but powerful. Great minds often have unusual habits, intense focus, and relentless curiosity. Newton teaches us that genius is rarely ordinary. It comes with obsession, solitude, and quirks. But when channeled wisely, even the strangest traits can contribute to discoveries that change the world.